All right, and we're live. All right, so my first guest is going to be Flores. And say hello, Flores.
Hi. Okay, cool. It's happening.
So you're releasing, actually, technically in an hour, you're releasing your new EP, right?
No, funny thing is that I've been saying it's the 24th this whole time, and then like I went back and I'm like, why aren't I seeing any announcement kind of things on Business Casual's official pages? And then I checked, and then it said like June 26th, so it's actually happening Friday, which is a bummer because like I wanted it to just get out of the way already. Like I'm done. Like that's been written and finished for like 2 months now, so like
Yeah, you have a kind of a Led Zeppelin way of numbering your albums. It's pretty cool. Or your EPs, I guess you could say. All right, so let's talk about you for a minute. You seem to have a broad style that seems to embrace oblique murkiness. I would say solid pop chops, but I would also say kind of an enlightened pop chop as well, kind of like a student. You know what I mean? You have an enigmatic quality. So explain a little bit about Flores and who is he as an artist?
Sometimes I just prep myself for these kind of things, like in an imaginary sense, like, oh, what if someone asks you stuff like this, and what would you say? Because, to be honest, it's kind of just, like, something I've always wanted to do, the project, right? Because, like, I've been writing music and making music and everything for, like, 5 years now, but, like, under different styles and different tools and everything like that, and I used to work with bands and everything, and I mean, just none of it was really to my taste. When I worked with other people, it just wasn't like what I wanted it to come out like, or the style that I was going for. So it just wasn't working out. And now that I can, and I have like, I just have like the means of making this a serious thing now. Like I really can. So I'm excited for that I'll get into that later. But there was a time where I just wasn't doing music at all for a while, and then when I got out of this period, I was just kind of like, okay, now's the time to do it. And then I pushed out the first 2 records within like a couple months, and then from that point I was just like, okay, like I'm not getting a ton of negative responses, so maybe I can just carry it on. Maybe I'm not terrible. So it's really just my little project, like it's eventually going to be a band, because I've never wanted to stay like a one person kind of thing. I think like when the right people come along is when it'll go that route. But like for now, I think everything's cool the way it is. On this next release though, after Flores 4, I'm working on an 8-track album, like not quite an LP, but it's bigger than an EP at the same time. It's just a miniature album, and it's gonna have like a lot different in terms of like sound quality, in terms of perspective, and overall it's just gonna sound like a completely different musical outlet. But it's all going under Flores, because I just feel it can be categorized much simpler in that way than having separate side projects just to release different styles. Like, yeah, okay, yeah.
You can keep going on, by the way. You can. I mean, to me, if you have a long answer that meanders, that still is a part of who Flores is as an artist, I think. So, Business Casual being the new label that you're under right now, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations to you for that, by the way. So I hear a lot of RADM, future pop, whatever you want to call it. But I can't help but notice the Vaporwave aesthetic. So how much has Vaporwave influenced your musical sensibilities?
Vaporwave, we're talking about, okay. I think it's not really Vaporwave itself, that is influencing me as much as whatever influenced Vaporwave is what also influenced me. because since I was like a kid living in Los Angeles, I would always see like a lot of like Pokemon and anime things, because like in like more inner city parts there was like all the awesome like comic book stores and stuff like that, and I would see Japanese text, but I didn't know what the hell it was. I just thought it was like really cool, like calligraphy or something. So I've always thought that the way that Japanese text is written out that way, like I always thought it was really appealing. But there's also like a double meaning to like why there is Japanese text next to my name, because I bet no one's bothered to like copy and paste it into Google Translator for any reason just to find out what it is. It's flowers. It says flowers in Japanese. And the reason why is because people ask, is Flores your last name? And I'm like, no. No, it's literally flowers in Spanish. So I have two translations for the word flowers in plural. You know, and I just, yeah. God. But, you know, I do like Vaporwave for what it is, because I think it's an entertaining thing. It's entertaining to show to people. Like, whenever, like, new people that I meet who claim to be, like, musically adventurous come by, I always show them Vaporwave. And, like, they always have, like, something like, oh, is something wrong with the MP3? Or is this, like, a rip from the vinyl or something? And I'm like, no, this is how it's made. And then they're like, this kind of sounds like a song I've heard before. And I'm like, it probably is. Like, none of it's original, honestly. It's like if you put a vinyl blues record and just, like, heat it up in the microwave for, like, 2 seconds is how it sounds to me.
I feel
and I've always loved anime, so.
To me, Vaporwave always felt like being on the internet at 1 in the morning in 1998, including all of the bad resolution and everything else. And I can't help it but think that that somehow inseminated into the ironic nature of a newer generation. And it kind of like tricked its way into a meme. I don't know. I have no clue. But I know that in Hex Yeah, Skinny Boys, a whole lot of your tracks, your voice is indecipherable at times. It's not completely unintelligible, but it's a stir, and it seems to have an intention behind it. And that's what I mean when I say it's not completely unintelligible. I mean, I can understand what you're saying, but I can also kind of pick up that you're almost clouding your voice on purpose. So is there an intention behind that technique, or if there is, what is that intention?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I've always thought that electronic music is something that, I mean, down to its very core, there's nothing natural about it. Is there, you know? Like, everything is some sort of, you know, artificial quality. So I've always thought, like, it's kind of silly to expect really, really, like, how can I say this? Like, I think it's silly to expect a lot out of vocalists in electronic music, especially if they're known for using things like vocoders or anything like that, you know. Honestly, I think that auto-tune in its like really light kind of like, oh, it's trying to disguise that someone's off key kind of way, I think like that's terrible. But like when it's used in like a really aesthetic kind of way, like almost like an effect that you throw on a guitar or something, you know, then I think, okay, well, that's just like an aesthetic effect. You know, like it has nothing to do with them disguising that they're just like, you know, lacking a performance. I've always thought that it's cool. So a voice to me, especially in this genre of music, is merely just another instrument. And
Okay.
you know, it's just another instrument, and you're free to do whatever you want. Honestly, like 25% of my lyrics are gibberish. You know, like it's just made up word to like fit into the syllable of like what I was trying to say. And I'm like, what can I fit in there? Something cliche, or do I just like do something, you know? And it'll just like fit in there. I mean, like, who's gonna know? Well, now they do, but like who listens to this stuff for lyrical meaning anyway?
Yeah, I think there are two kinds of people when it comes to that. There's some people who do go out and search out lyrics, and they want to know them, and they judge music if it A, doesn't have any lyrics, or if they can't understand it. They immediately kind of dismiss it. And then there's another more adventurous, you know, kind of people that, you know, don't care at all. I'm of course one of those people. I don't know. I think if you want the lyrics to be known, then it's a part of the aesthetic. You don't want it to be known it's a part of the aesthetic. Both ways it is, and you're right. So you don't purposely disguise at all. It's just an effect that you put on your voice and you treat it as if it's a musical instrument. Awesome. Awesome. So you seem to be a little enigmatic, kind of in reference to your image, I would have to say. You seem stoically optimistic, melancholic pop. You embrace and shun, it seems, vanity, pop culture, artificiality. Of course, as colors on a palette, though. I don't mean you truly personify these things or anything like that. But do you think that is a fair assessment?
It's definitely what I'm trying to do with it is definitely achieving the effect desired because you see it that way. So like, bravo to me for coming up with that little trick. Because honestly, like everything that I portray, like me, like I'm James, but I'm not really the person that is into these things. It's just like a character portrayal. Like this dude is just like the pop star at the moment. So like just. I can just like be fabulous within the context of my project and not be that person in real life because I'm really not. But I just think it's fun to like act almost. It's just another part of acting. Like who knows what's a persona anymore? Like who knows how real a person over the internet is. So that's just what I'm trying to do with that. With this next thing, that's going to be a completely different persona as well, and then they'll just over and over as like my images change and stuff like that. I think with the 30p, I just think I was trying to be as ugly as possible in some of those photos. Like there's one, like the alternative cover art of Flores 3 is like me with like black mascara smeared across my face and like me like pulling my face apart and stuff like that. But like that's really just because like I'm just trying to make something ugly like in your face, and that like I'm sure it catches attention sometimes, whoever gives a shit about it.
If you may interject though, I do feel like it has sort of a sensuality to it as well. I don't think it has like an overt one, but sort of like I don't know, a lot of it is kind of like Clive Barker and Ian, I guess you could say, in that respect. And a lot of his work is ugly and it celebrates the grotesque, but there's this kind of inherent sensuality to it, and that's where I kind of pick up this duality between you. When I see what you do with your image, I kind of take your image sort of as like that's your medium, and your painting essentially.
Right.
But yeah. So we should expect an evolution then of Flores on the road, pretty much.
Yeah, no, like I've always thought it was important to have some kind of a face to go with it, and I toyed with the idea of using models to like stage a band, like to stage people that would be the band and I the leader of this fictional band, and that I would just have like guest musicians come in and make the music that way, and then just like portray it as such, but like really I'm kind of just the puppeteer behind the whole thing, which may actually come to fruition. But for now, I think like I just want to like be the star of the project for at least another record or so before I bring in a bunch of other people. But I've always thought it was like a fascinating idea to do, and like the art of someone's image, like I think that sometimes even like when someone isn't trying to have an image, they create one for themselves. They peg themselves a certain way. For example, like an artist like someone as scruffy as like Mac DeMarco, who is like this indie artist. He I mean, it's almost like he rolls out of bed in the morning, and that's how he like prances about like on MTV's Weird Vibes or whatever, if that's even still happening, or at whatever place. But already, like him and his band have an image for being like these teenage redneck kind of types, like already it is. I have a feeling that Tyler the Creator and Odd Future weren't really trying to make an image for themselves. They just happened to like pretty colors, and that sparked something on its own. So here's just me like toying with the idea of like, that was unintentional, what can I do intentionally, you know? Like, how can this band forever continue to, like, look different? And I'm never going to just want to be electronic, you know? Like, I've never had the interest of just keeping it entirely synthesized. I've always wanted to make music that had a wide variety of instruments. So that's eventually going to happen. And now I have a way of doing it. So it should be good. I think that between Flores 1, 2, 3, and 4, there has been just like this toying with just electro pop and you know, like the different ways that I like to look at it, you know, and like the different methods of putting that together. But I want to branch out into other things, and I will continue to do so. But never will I. I think I'll always have like a distinct thing that makes it sound like one of my things. Like, I'm never trying to like sound like someone else or anything like that. And let me get you. I'm gonna get started on this one topic. Okay. I know that you are credited by Karate King as the person who coined the term retro electronic dance music, REDM. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think it's good and all, but like a few years back when I first started to kind of like hear that kind of thing, my first taste of artists that were so embraced, they just embraced the old retro sound so much. Like, my first taste of that was like a group like Chromeo, you know, and then that was just like something around like, wait, there's people who actually do throwback like in a literal way, in such a dramatic way. And so I started to like look for more of it, and a lot of these like Frenchies, they have like such good electro house music, and then a few of them have taken on the you know, the retro sound, not the way that Daft Punk did it, in kind of like a tongue-in-cheek sort of like honing in on like, you know, funk grooves and stuff like that. I mean, like, straight out everything is synthesized kind of thing, like you know, someone like Kavinsky, but like not even he's fully EDM, that not entirely of that breed. I just think that eventually it all starts to melt in this one like sound, and it's gonna be like, okay, so the first start of it is your arpeggiated like, and then, you know, you have your bass sounds that are like, and then eventually a kick will come in there, and then you know, various arrangements of those same chords throughout the track, and then it ends, and then so on and so forth. And I've kind of looked at that, and in extent, all like dance music, like house, the mainstream EDM, bro step, deep house. I think when the artist starts to lack character, the music itself begins to lack interest as well. So I think that there are some people out there that have like their own little distinct way of putting it together, but to me, like, way too much of it starts to blend. So like, it's funny to see everyone like having little hissy fits over like genre cutting and everything, when merely everyone, for the most part, is cookie cutter. You know, it's fun. It gives me a lull every day, like when I'm off, you know, when I'm on break at work or whatever. I could scroll Facebook and see everyone like bitching about like the new thing, and it's funny, but I don't think I'll ever want to be a part of this like supposed scene of like anonymous producers who are only known by their Facebook pages, you know, and have a few things on Bandcamp and whatever. That's all good and fine if their aim is just to never expand beyond like having the little underground, the small time fame, you know. But I know it's crazy and it sounds like I'm delusional when I talk like this, but like, I don't think I'm ever gonna stop pushing this project until like something bites. And I'm only 22 years young, so I feel like I have plenty of time to just keep doing that, you know. While I'm pretty and supple, I'm gonna go and make this thing happen. So it's gonna, you know, eventually, you know.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, thing with RADM for me, it was mainly what's the word? I'll think of it in a minute. It was an analytical reason. It was completely for analytics. To be quite honest, it wasn't. It's not as cynical as that sounds. It was just that there are so many words for the genre that we're just calling it the genre because there's no word to describe it yet. And I was thinking purely from how does everyone benefit? How would everyone benefit from having a term that could be described to them? But at the same time, it's not really a campaign that I'm on. It was kind of a thing that I'm saying like, well, I'm going to do that. And then other people kind of took the banner too and said, well, I'm going to do that too. But yeah, just since I'm on video now, I'll go ahead and say that like none of this was created as a campaign against anybody or anything like that or any other genres. There's no death to synthwave war at all. So would you like to jam with me? I have a guitar.
Okay. Let's see what we can do here.
I will.
Let's sound check.
All right.
That's
ahead. All right. I don't even have a pick, but I don't feel like getting one. Unfortunately, my nails are kind of all broke, but that's okay. I'll still use my fingers. All right. You lay down the jam.
Okay, so how about we have just a simple...
All right. That was great fun. Very Pee-wee's Playhouse moment.
You know what? I think that for the next stuff, it is going to be a lot like, Pee Wee Herman fronted the Smiths is like what this next record is going to be like.
That's a great term. Those are great elements together. It really is, especially I could see Morrissey in the Pee Wee Herman suit. That would be amazing, actually. I would see that. I would. Yeah. I could see that. Come on and take a chance, Pee Wee Herman.
Secret, I know, how could I? Yeah, it's all fun.
All right, so tell me what it is like to be signed to Business Casual Records. What kind of relationship do you have with them? Is it a hands-off relationship, hands-on relationship, just kind of like that?
Okay, so honestly, when it comes to like these internet labels, I think that they like to take care of the artists that represent them like the very most, first and foremost. And of course, that's expected. And I don't know really where I would fit in any other label. And, this is the third label that I've released something through. Each EP came out through a different label besides, the second one. That one was just self-released on, I think it was a couple of days before. Or no, I think it was on Thanksgiving. I released it on Thanksgiving. I gave that little of a shit. Was that I released an EP on Thanksgiving when no one gives a fuck about someone's album release, it just came out because I had these songs and I pushed it out, and it was like whatever. I played one show where I did, you know, some of the songs off of it, and it was at this art show for, you know, like your run-of-the-mill privileged suburban kids who are like, you know, putting together thrift store clothes and calling it art, and then going and, you know, banging pots and pans together and calling that music as well. But since it's in a coffee store, it's avant-garde.
You would think that coffee are passe now, but they're not. They're still kind of these points of these nodes of hipsterdom. It's insane. I don't know why. It's very 90s. I think it would be dead by now.
Yeah, you know, they're bringing a lot of that back. Like, don't you think that a lot of the more trendy things that you see at an H&M or Forever 21 or stuff like that, like the cool kids, the fabulous ones, they always seem kind of like the poor kids of the 90s, you know, like all the kids that were soon to be heroin addicts, you know, in Seattle. Uh, I think it's just another trend. It's another fad in modern day society within the U.S. mainstream pop culture, is that like we try and embrace the negative aspects of lifestyle without actually like having it. We're living it, you know.
Great.
Like you have your trust fund college kids like dress like as if they're broke as hell, you know, and they're buying like Goodwill clothes because they that's all they can afford. It's like, what the fuck? And then they have like the latest iPhone and shit and have a ton of money. And okay, and you know, these are the same people that nitpick genres online and have like 1,000 Tumblr followers, and their music is like soaring. But you know, I'm not even gonna get into that. You know, it's about the third time that I've had beef with another musician, because it happens sometimes. Because like people think that they're gonna get away with this whole like, you know, like, oh, nice stuff, check me out, leave a comment, like, repost, and like I'll just say it to them like on that same comment. I'll be like, fuck off, because like they're not even listening to your music. They just skipped like halfway through your SoundCloud stream to post that, so that they think that you heard up to that point, and then you're like, oh, they listen to me, I should listen to them. It's not like that. Like really, people are just like fishing for likes here and there, and I'm guilty of it too, where I'll like post a lot of my things, but I don't really do like the desperate tactic of tagging people and then sending private messages to people and then like spamming more than 10 Facebook groups. You know, like it's just some other come on its own. So.
You know, it's a lot of the whole business card culture, a la American Psycho, maybe. It's a lot like that. A lot of people's Bandcamp profiles, all of the Facebook pages and stuff like that. A lot of people do have that. Well, I don't know. I can't say a lot of people, but there are some people who have that type of relationship with them, where they have that inner neurotic dialogue with themselves, and they talk about how good their page is. The CSS is sweet on that one. The HTML5, I don't even know that yet. Yeah, they have that inner dialogue. But speaking of 90s, as you're talking about a lot of trust fund kids dressing like, there is an obvious homage to 90s dance music in your compositions, though. So do you think that would be an important element to your music?
Well, I mean, first of all, because I was curious about that question. Like, where are you drawing that from? Like, what songs in particular?
I feel like, okay, let's put it this way. I sort of feel like there's more of a 909 sound to a lot of the stuff you do. I'm not going to say it dominates everything you do, but I do hear some elements of that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I hear that in a few people's, in RADM and other genres, side genres or whatever. But and I would say I would also have the same insight as well, though, with wherever I hear that. And a lot of times you hear more like the Lynn drum, you know, the crispier 80s drum type stuff, or the warm vinyl-y drums, you know, a la the HBO intro from the 80s. But in yours, sometimes there's a real a dance thump to the bass that's very, in my opinion at least, 90s, I would say.
Okay. You know, when I was a kid, I think the only kind of music that took any interest in me, like I think it was because my dad was a DJ in the '90s and the late '80s that I grew up listening to a lot of electronic dance music in its early stages at that point. And I mean things like, you know, the Euro dance and Euro trance and, you know, what have you, the, you know, like best of the '90s ultra dance hits 2001, blah blah blah, and this and that. And I think all of those compilations, like I still have a few of them too. They really like left a mark in me that I could not ever get out. Like, and I knew that unless I was fulfilling those things that I heard as a kid that I wanted to achieve so much, I wasn't going to be happy doing any kind of other music with other people until I did this kind of thing for myself. And I didn't really expect for people to think that it was all that cool like immediately. Like most of my friends were always into like metalcore and death metal and or like hip hop and like thug rap, and if not that, then like I had my friends that did like the more psychedelic side of alternative rock and all. But you know, I don't really know too many people, even like now personally in real life, that avidly listen to like, you know, synth music, you know, as a whole, as like, you know, an educated person to the genre and like the make of it, you know. And I'm very much a nerd about this kind of music too. Like I can bore people with like talk of it, and you know, a lot of people don't really draw the link between electronic music then and what's around now. Because if you think about it, okay, look, this is like one of my favorite records. This right here is the Human League's Dare LP. I think it's 1980, I think. And it's actually like one of the first records I ever owned. And like, wow, the sounds on that thing, if only, you know, if only I had access to just like the raw deal and not like go through the trouble of having modern day VSTs try to emulate those kind of sounds. I think that if you think about it, that stuff, that's electronic music, isn't it? Isn't the Human League electronic music?
I would say so.
Okay, so why do people hear that and then they're just like, oh, like I don't even know what kind of music that is. But then you show them like Calvin Harris and they're like, that's electro. And it's like, okay, do you not draw that link that they're using like the same instruments, you know, but in different styles, you know? Like just like some people just think that the word 80s is a genre now, you know? It's I just, you know, but I do think that a lot of my music pays homage to the, you know, the synth sounds of yesteryear and all, but I also am not stuck in like, you know, nostalgia, and I'm not trying to like really tug anyone's, you know, like nostalgia tears out of them, you know, either. I think it just kind of happens. And I mean, I'm guilty of using hashtags like retro and new wave, but I also think that the term that is probably around already, and it's not all that original or clever either, but new wave, as in like a, you know, NU, like new modern, like new metal and new disco and stuff like that, but wave, as in like .wav, like waveform, you know, is like a kind of tongue-in-cheek way for me to express how this whole thing is. Because if you think about it, like, I mean, a wave file is a digital thing, and what we're doing is retro music that is like new wave throwback, right? So it's kind of like digital throwback music. It's new wave, and I think that that's like probably the best way that you're gonna be able to describe anything I do. But like I said, I'm not gonna want to just stick to making synth pop forever. Although there will always be keyboards and like, you know, it's electronic elements and dance grooves. Not everything will always like be synthesized down to a T. And I'm also really influenced by bands like The Cure and the Smiths and Joy Division and that whole, like, you know, those good name drops from, like, you know, the 80s post-punk thing. That's all good too. And I really like a lot of the modern, you know, indie things that are like dominating like the underground scene right now. I like Dive, and you know, Grimes tops, and really am having like man crushes on Ariel Pink right now because that dude is multi-talented. So I mean, I draw influence from like literally all spectrums of music, and for a while I was even like composing like hip hop, you know, for a quick minute, but never will that won't ever touch Flores. But I would hope to just like bring this all together and then like smear it, and instead of just emulating those sounds, I'm kind of parodying, you know, things. That's what I feel like a lot of like the old stuff is, like especially like Flores 3. I feel like it's almost like a parody of like EBM, like electronic body music, industrial dance music, with like, you know, it's like agrotech like beats, and like the way that like their vocals are always like these cranky kind of sounding like vampires on microphones. So like that's what I was just trying to do, but it doesn't really sound all that aggressive. It's just kind of like making fun of like its kind of thing. There's always a playful sense to my music.
Good. So, are you ready to go rounds of sparring with Synthrock?
I'm sorry, what?
We're going to do 7 rounds of sparring with Synthrock, which is 7 lightning round questions.
Okay.
So here we go. All right. What would be your finishing move to defeat Kavinsky?
Oh man, I think I would if I had all 7 Chaos Emeralds, I'd unlock my super form and then just kind of blast through the motherfucker.
All right. So what is the most Flores thing you could do right now?
Put on some lipstick.
All right. Would you rather your music was for making love or fucking?
Anonymous loving, you know, like someone who they want to fuck, but they also want to have like that connection that they don't have in their lives because their mother never really cared about them, like that, you know, that desperate like loving.
Okay. So Craigslist sex.
Okay.
What is the best impression you can do?
I'm sorry, I didn't really get that.
But you don't understand the question, or like you didn't?
I mean, I just didn't hear it too well.
Oh, what is the best impression you can do?
Oh, I could, who can I impress? I can, you know, I'm really good at these most of the time, but I'm really good at being, a bad influence to kids, you know? Like, I can pretend to be this person that peer pressures someone to do something they don't want to. And I do it a lot, especially to kids that are younger than me, you know? Like, I see them coming out of high schools, and I'm just sitting there, you know, along the curb with a cigarette. And as they're coming by, I'm just like, hey, kid, you want to smoke? And then they turn around and they're like, ew, get away. And I'm like, come on, I'm only 16. And then I follow them, you know? And by that point, they're like, oh my God, there's this fucking old guy, and he's like talking to us, you know? And
16. Just got my first car. All right. Would you rather be hated or forgotten?
Well, nobody forgot about Hitler, did they?
No.
And he had fabulous style. I think he had really fucked up priorities, but he had like really great style. He started so much of the alternative trend if you really think about it. The first Antichrist superstar.
I think it's scary how Nazi-ish a lot of fashion has gotten. I will go on record saying that. It's a little creepy.
No, I mean, that's true. There is a lot of stuff that's like, you look at it and you're like, okay, do you guys realize what this looks like, you know? for example, and not only that, but a lot of people also want to look really, it goes back to what I was saying, like, some people want to like give off a bad vibe. Like there's like some people that dress like bums, but they're really not. Like I said, they're just like these 16-year-olds that think it's cool to look poor. And I blame Lana Del Rey entirely. I think it's her fault for glamorizing battered women, glamorizing depression, and all putting it through this bland, pale imitation of Nancy Sinatra music in like every 50s like reference in the book. I think that, I mean, she's one of those gals that, we'll look back and we're just like, remember when that was a thing? Like, who's talking about Lord nowadays? And like, who's
Right.
talking about a lot of like these, like, they came and went kind of people? Like, I don't really think that. I think that Katy Perry is starting to like hit her cap, and then she's eventually going to like it's getting too big and she can't handle it. Like, it's at that point her fame went to level 9,000 and it could not be reversed. But then we have our pop stars that like won't really need chart success anymore. Like those who like have their loyal fan bases and won't ever have to like really do any like hit singles anymore. Like if they have a tour, lots of people are gonna come.
Right. So, what is your favorite video game console?
Sega Genesis.
Good choice. All right. Let's do Get Drunk With, Go Back in Time to 1984 With, or Collaborate With. And we have in the list Carpenter Brute, Mozart, and Crystal Castles.
So, okay, those three first things that you said, I can pair those up with those three artists, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely would want to get drunk with Crystal Castles.
Okay.
Even though I don't really drink, I don't drink, but if I had the chance to be around Alice Glass, I'm sure just like sniffing the air that she's been in is going to like get me a DUI. I know it. The woman like breathes vodka, and I think she's probably still at it. And while we're talking about Crystal Castles, I think that Ethan Cap, if only he learned to shed his like in his just like camera shy qualities, like I think he could carry Crystal Castles if he could. But like, God forbid that he says anything else that shows how much Crystal Castles was holding Alice Black from holding her back from like achieving this enormous success as like a photographer and like model, because we know how good that's going. And I don't even know who the first person you said was, but Mozart, I would definitely do some heavy blow with him and have him teach me like everything he could, even though I don't think I could even live the age to learn everything he had to teach.
So it would be fair to say you would go back in time with Mozart to 1984, do a lot of blow, and then collaborate with him.
Yes, and get ourselves a Scarlet Corvette.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Flores. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we will talk again when you release another album.
It's going to happen soon. Like, we all know there's going to be like another 3 or something this year. Like, awesome. Probably. Okay. Well, I mean, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for, having me on this thing. It was really cool doing it all. And it's really great to be able to talk about like music that someone else actually has knowledge of, instead of like just, it's good. It's good. So thank you.
Awesome. So before we go, is there any plugs you want to make? Your album's dropping this Friday, right?
Yes, Flores 4 is coming out Friday, June 26th via Business Casual, and they'll be releasing it on their Bandcamp page, and I'll have the entire thing posted for streaming on my SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/Flores-music. Give me a like on Flores, that's Flores on Facebook. If there are Japanese text next to it, then you found my page. And feel free to just chat with me. If you have me as a friend on Facebook, I'm always around as long as it pertains to music. But if you're just doing the whole, like, what are you up to kind of thing, then I have better things to do, people. So, thanks. All of you take care of yourselves. Stay hydrated. It's hot out here in California.
Awesome. I will see you later.
Bye.